Hello and welcome. As an expert in modern hospitality operations, I'm truly delighted to guide you, the students of Europe Hotel School, on this online learning journey. Together, we're going to explore the key skills that will support your professional growth in this incredible industry. So, here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. We're diving into the critical skill of separating fact from assumption. We'll start with why this is so high stakes at the front desk. Then, we'll define exactly what we mean, give you a practical toolkit you can use right away, and finally, show you the huge professional advantage this skill gives you.
All right, let's start where the action is, the front desk. This is really the nerve center of the entire guest experience, a place where even the smallest misjudgment can have a pretty big impact.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of the problem we're talking about today. In that fast-paced environment, the gap between what we think is happening and what's really happening can lead to some serious service breakdowns, turning a tiny issue into a really memorable mistake.
You see, when we let assumptions take the wheel instead of facts, it's like setting off a domino effect of negative outcomes. Every little error chips away at the guest's trust and, at the end of the day, the hotel's reputation.
So the big question is, how do we stop this from happening? Well, it all starts with getting crystal clear on the difference between a fact and an assumption. This is, and I can't stress this enough, the absolute foundation of professional problem solving. Think of facts as your anchor in any storm. They are objective, they're concrete, and you can prove them through your systems, your records, or just direct, verifiable statements. Facts give you that stable ground you need to act with confidence.
Now, assumptions, they're a different beast. They're basically mental shortcuts. And you know what? Our brains are wired to use them to be efficient in a busy job. The real danger pops up when we start treating these assumptions as the truth without ever checking them.
And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows that massive gap. On one side, you've got solid, reliable data. That's your safe ground for taking action. On the other, it's all interpretation, and that's where the high risk of error sneaks in.
Okay, so we've got the what down. Now, let's get into the how. We're going to equip you with a practical, hands-on toolkit for separating facts from assumptions during any guest interaction.
It really boils down to a simple 3-step process you can start using today. First, you've just got to hit the pause button and realize when your brain is taking a shortcut. Second, you challenge that thought. Ask yourself, what proof do I have? And third, you go on a mini fact-finding mission before you speak or act. Let's put this into practice. Picture this. A guest walks up to you and says, "My room isn't what I booked." Now, what's your first instinct? Your brain might immediately jump to conclusions, right? Oh, the system must be wrong, or maybe they're just confused.
But right there, before a single word comes out of your mouth, you have to ask yourself, is what they're saying the final word, or is it just the first clue in your investigation? The true professional knows it's always the starting point.
So the professional move here is to just take a beat and pull up the actual data. And look, checking these items in your system, that's not being slow, it's being accurate. It gives you a clear roadmap to the right solution, not just a shot in the dark. And, this whole fact-based mindset, it's not just for putting out fires. It fundamentally changes the way you communicate with guests, with your team, and it builds this amazing foundation of trust and clarity. Let's take another classic example. A guest says, "Housekeeping ignored my room." Okay, that statement is packed with emotion, right? It's their interpretation of events. It is not yet a verified fact. And if you just accept it at face value, you could head down a completely wrong path. So instead of just accepting their interpretation, you can ask some clarifying questions. Something like, "Could you tell me what time you are expecting service?" That simple question helps you gently separate their feeling from the actual events. And this brings us to a really powerful technique called restating. By repeating the key facts back to the guest, you're confirming you understand, you're showing them you're listening carefully, and you stop misunderstandings before they can grow. It's a simple but incredibly powerful tool. This one is absolutely crucial. Avoid assuming you know why someone is acting a certain way. A guest with a raised voice isn't always aggressive. It could just be stress from a long day of travel. Responding with professional neutrality instead of getting defensive keeps you in control and de-escalates everything.
So you might be thinking this is all about avoiding mistakes, but mastering this skill is so much more than that. It's about actively building your professional reputation and your career for the long term.
And the payoff here is huge. You become a more reliable, more trusted professional. Your managers will notice it, your colleagues will rely on you, and most importantly, your guests will feel genuinely cared for.
At the end of the day, this is the reputation you build. Guests and managers will start to see you as that person who doesn't jump to conclusions, but instead operates with clarity, precision, and grace under pressure.
When you think about it, this one single discipline is your shield. It protects you from countless errors. It makes sure your solutions are targeted and effective the first time around. And that is the very definition of professional excellence.
So if you take away one thing, let it be this. Each time you pause and double-check, it's not a delay. It's an investment in your professional credibility and your career growth. It is a habit that builds excellence.
So I'll leave you with a challenge. As you go about your day-to-day, what's one assumption you can pause and test against the facts? Thank you for joining me on this learning journey.